the NFL is run by quarterbacks. It always has been. It wasn't always, but for
Definitely more
most
so.
of the
Yeah, yeah.
NFL, it's always been run by quarterbacks. Bills obviously have probably my favorite young quarterback to watch outside of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. What does Josh Allen need to do this year, over the next few years, to take that next step in his game? Because it seems like every year it's just like, wow, this guy's new. You can't do that every year. But what is there something in particular that you're looking at that you want him to improve on this season?
Yeah, I think it's just. I mean, at this point, he's got a very complete game. A couple years ago, you would have said, the raw athletics are there. The when he cleaned up his throwing mechanics. I was watching some old, rookie year Josh Allen highlights, and it is unbelievable the visual difference in his throwing mechanics. So once he cleaned that up, it became let's make the right decision. Let's not pitch the ball to Dawson Knox in a playoff game. With 2 minutes left. And I think that you saw that sort of begin to improve this past year. Definitely you saw the game start to slow down for him. And I think if he can continue on that trajectory, I mean, we've seen, like we were just talking about with the Brady era, we've seen what wins ultimately. And with some exceptions, ultimately, it's those film rats, those guys who are in there. They know what you're going to do 3 steps ahead of when you're going to do it, and that partially comes with work, which I don't think anyone has any hangups about Josh's work ethic, but it also just comes with time, and coming into year 5, I think he's not only seen how defenses work, period, but now he's starting to see, he went through that period where defenses are starting to get to know him, starting to adjust to who he is as a player. So I think, now that he has that under his belt, it's just about letting the game slow down, making the right decision. So I would say the mental game is the biggest place where I want to see continued improvement from him. But you can't ask for much more physically from a guy like that. He absolutely puts it on the line. Yeah, maybe one thing I would say is, I love to see him run, but if he could peel that back even a tiny bit and rely more on his arm, it just gives me heart palpitations every time he's staring down a linebacker.
That's why they need James Cook to step up this year. If he can step up, late in the season,
just lighten
all
the
of a
load
sudden,
even a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to point out, because when you look at, in my opinion, the 2 best quarterbacks of all time, they're the 2 smartest quarterbacks of all time. Exactly. I think it's Brady and Manning, and they studied every day. It seemed like 24 hours, where it was like they knew exactly what was going to happen. And Bill Belichick, my favorite Bill Belichick moment of all time is him talking about Ed Reed, and he was like, that was the only time I ever saw anybody outthink Peyton Manning, because he knew what Peyton was thinking and Peyton knew what he was thinking. He said, no, I'm going to do the opposite of what you think I'm going to do. And he peels back and gets that interception. Those are the types of plays, and those are the types of players that end up winning the more of those championships. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love watching him. Darn, I had my jersey on. I took it off, I think, in my room. But he was on a podcast, I can't remember which one, and he was like, yeah, these guys talk about, oh man, I'm up at 7 a.m. and I'm watching film. He's like, you don't need to do that. You go home, take a chill. And I'm like, Aaron Rodgers, I'm never going to be as good as you. I'm never going to be as athletically gifted. I'm never going to do that. But it seems ironic that the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks that win are the guys that are the ones up, 7 a.m. studying the film over and over and over again. And you, who some people consider the most talented player to ever play at that position, say that, oh, no, you don't need to do that. That shows like, hey, the guys that are better end up doing it, for longer, and they end up having more success with it. And that's what I want to see out of all these young quarterbacks, right? Because I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen came in and they were the most raw. And so it was, let's correct the mechanics. Let's correct the, what you're bringing to the table. And then you can focus on the mental game. Whereas other guys, it was like, Baker had the mechanics. His mechanics, his athleticism wasn't able to take him over the top. We'll see how he does this year, but we got to see that next step from those young guys. We've started to kind of see it from Mahomes. He's not at the Brady, Manning level, but we've started to see in interviews where he's like fully talking about it. He's like, oh, that is what I've been working on. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, that gets me scared because I want him to be like Aaron Rodgers. He's just be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I saw him open. I hit him.
Yeah.
Like, I want that. Let me face that guy because, you can get some big plays. That's why he throws some interceptions. When you start hearing them talking, oh, no, this is what I was seeing out there, that's when it gets scary because then okay, they're going to do it for a long time. If when they're, 33, 34, that arm starts to decrease, the legs start to decrease. If that mind has been studying for that long, they're going to still be able to play at a high level. That's why Brady's playing at whatever he is, 41, 42 years old.
Exactly. Yeah, it does seem that the proof is in the pudding there. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And another thing I just want to go back, you were asking like steps for Josh. And I think something, and this is also for the Rams game, that I'm looking out for is this transition here from Daboll to Ken Dorsey at OC in Buffalo. Because, a lot of people credited Daboll with kind of Josh Allen's development and he was a big part in contributing to what a juggernaut that offense was last year. Dorsey's been there. He's been the quarterback's coach for Allen these past couple of years. So I'm expecting a relatively smooth transition. But it will be interesting to see, how Josh adjusts to that, how kind of the Bills' offense in general looks with this new leadership, and I'm hoping that it might even bring like an extra dimension. I know him and Dorsey have a great relationship, so I'm hoping and I've heard in interviews that they're starting to kind of trust Josh Allen's process more, like be a little bit more hands off with how he approaches things, which I think is a good sign. So yeah, that's just something I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I think anytime especially a young quarterback gets a new offensive coordinator, it is an adjustment, and the benefit is Josh is wildly talented, so he's going to be okay. But it's going to be, is this going to be something that benefits him, and maybe the system is even more designed for him, and allowing that more more insights from Josh, can that help the team? Because I think it may hurt in the short run. Where he's like, oh no, I think we should do this. But in the long run, that is what those great quarterbacks do. I think the best example is Ben Roethlisberger, because Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career, maybe not last year or the last 2 years, but it was like their team would be no yards, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then Ben would just say no to the sideline, no huddle, back-to-back drives, puts up 2 touchdowns, and you're like,
yeah.
What the heck?
Damn.
We were killing the Steelers, and then all of a sudden it's like Big Ben was like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what's open. And it's like, in the long run, that can happen, and that's when it can start to get really scary. It's like when they start seeing it and they say, because we saw it, unfortunately, in the Bills-Chiefs game, Kelsey tells Mahomes, Kelsey's been playing a long time. He's like, hey, that guy's backed off right here. I need you to hit me. That's something that gets with time and allowing those players to say, hey, yeah, let's do this. That's when it starts to work, is after a little bit of time. Now, you don't want to be throwing no-look passes and stuff like that on the regular.
Right.
I think that's still my favorite highlight of all time is Mahomes going, whoop, the ball going 25 yards over Travis Kelce's head in
Yeah.
the end zone. But you got to let your young guy really start to turn into that next level, even though it may
Yeah.
hurt you in the short run, and that may cause some losses early. But in 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to make
Right.
him that much better.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's a good sign based on what we were talking about before in terms of like the whole mental side of it, where um, I'm hoping that means that they trust him, to step into that role, and that he's starting to see things slow down a little bit, and yeah, so hopefully it's a good sign.
Absolutely. All right, Alex, do you have anything final to say on the Bills season predictions, anything like that, or should we wrap it up?
I don't. I think that's all I got. I know you guys were talking about Gabe Davis, so I won't touch too much on that. But I'm looking for a big year from him. Obviously, Von Miller in Bills Blue is going to be a beautiful thing. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, it was a ton of fun. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for that weekly or daily throughout the week, sports content, NFL, NBA, MLB, all that sort of thing. But thank you so much, and we'll see all of you again next time.
Go Bills.